Welcome to the official catch-up. Today we're going to be focusing on the east of Scotland. Obviously the season kicked off at the weekend along with the Lowland and South of Scotland leagues. We have Kevin Marshall on with us. How are you doing, Kev?
I'm good, Chris. Thanks. How are you?
Yeah, doing brilliant, mate. It's obviously great to give the east of Scotland a wee bit of coverage. We don't know how regular these will be, but obviously season and opener, we thought it would be good to maybe just cover a few of the games. Certainly, obviously, you mentioned your blog, obviously on Twitter, and a wee bit earlier, you had a few predictions. There was some shocks this weekend, I would suggest, Kev.
I think the only shocker was my prediction ability. So safe to say I'll not be troubling the bookies anytime soon.
As I said to you, mate, I think there was a few shock results. Obviously, we'll get into them, but we'll start with Friday's game. Musselburgh Athletic versus Lothian Thistle Hutchie Vale. Hutchie Vale obviously just coming up from Conference A. They won last season. Musselburgh, for me, I think, a lot of people were sort of touting them towards the top. The game did get switched to Olive Bank. I believe there might have been an issue with Lothian Thistle playing at home. It was, and lucky, obviously, we mentioned, a lot of clubs are streaming right now, and Musselburgh did stream the game, so I did manage to catch this one myself. What can I really say? Musselburgh, I thought were good. I thought Lothian Thistle were great. Lots of chances, kind of open game. I think Musselburgh got caught out in the break, but obviously by Lothian Thistle, I think they were a wee bit more clinical in terms of their chances. And I wonder if this is a bit of a record. I don't know if you sort of spied this, Kev, but 3 Sean's scoring in the one game. Obviously, Sean Ring, Sean Lally, Sean Cummin. Lothian Thistle won 3-2. Musselburgh did get a sort of consolation towards the end, but that must be some sort of record. Three goal scorers.
Maybe in Scotland there. I mean, it mightn't be so much a record in Ireland or somewhere like that, but it's quite unusual anyway. I don't know about a record, but unusual.
Yeah, very, very. And there were some decent finishes. I know for Sean Lally's goal, we sort of, I know the Bra were kind of suggesting it might have been offside, but he cut through and just took it past the keeper. But Sean Cummin, obviously, we know, who used to play for Kelly Hearts under 20s. I think he played really well. He sort of cut down the left, and it was a really decent finish as well. But surprising result, Kev?
A wee bit, aye. I mean, I never saw the game myself. I didn't watch the stream, but I did see Musselburgh a couple of weeks ago in one of the pre-season games against Kelty, and I thought they gave a pretty good account of themselves. And I actually thought at that time that they probably looked like a decent kind of outside bet for the season. So I maybe a wee bit of a shock, no disrespect to Lothian Thistle at all. But when I did my blog, I actually did it on Friday night, and I predicted a narrow home win, I think, for Musselburgh. So that was the first of my predictions that went wrong.
Yeah, I mean, there seemed to be, I don't know if it's maybe just the amount of Musselburgh fans that sort of follow us on social media, but certainly they've been sort of talked up a wee bit this season. I think their squad's actually pretty decent. As I said, they played all right. They obviously hit the post a couple of times and hit the bar as well, so I think it was just an unfortunate case that they maybe got caught out by Lothian Thistle, Hutchie Vale when they were in the attack, and obviously, goals win games, obviously.
There's one thing that I have noticed over the seasons: the Friday night games tend to kind of throw up some odd results from time to time. But in saying that, Lothian Thistle were always the main side in the East of Scotland League back in the past, and since all the sides came over for the juniors, they've kind of slipped a wee bit. But from what I gather, they were pretty strong in Conference A last season, so maybe they're just carrying that momentum into the Premier League.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll move into Saturday's fixtures. There was obviously a few of them. We'll start with Blackburn United hosting Jeanfield Swifts, and it was a bit of a rout for Jeanfield. We were up at Jeanfield a few weeks ago, obviously, at their training sessions. They did look well drilled. They looked well fit. Dodsey scored a brace. Chris McLeish hat-trick and Mark Smith goal. Blackburn did have a chance to to sort of get a consolation, but Mitchell did make a save from a penalty save, really. A brilliant win for Jeanfield.
I expected them to win that, but maybe not by that sort of scoreline. I was lucky enough to be at the Jeanfield game last weekend against Stirling University Lowland League side, and they were 3-0 up at half time, and went on to win the game 3-1. And I certainly thought first half they looked pretty impressive. To be honest, maybe the Stirling keeper had a bit of a mare, but you still got to stick the ball away. So I think I did fancy Jeanfield for that for the win there, but like I say, I wasn't expecting 6-0.
Dark horses potentially for top of the league.
Could be, yeah. You never know. I think they play some nice stuff. Jeanfield. They have a bit of a worrying tendency to let it slip from time to time, but certainly when they're firing, they knock the ball about well, and again they've got some quality right through the side. Players that are good with the ball at their feet. So on their day, they're a match for anybody.
Yep, good, and it was obviously good to see Doddsy get a brace in that game as well. Yep, happy with that. Dunbar United versus Sauchie. I think another bit of a shock, really. They were hosting Sauchie, but early goal from Fraser Neve, who I've been kind of sort of back and forth with him on Twitter, obviously about the East of Scotland getting the professional status. He's calling himself a pro footballer now. He scored in the second minute to give Dunbar the lead quite early on, and they sealed it in the 74th minute via the penalty spot. McLaren doubling the lead. For me, that's I probably know a wee bit more about Sauchie than I do Dunbar United's team, but another shock I would suggest.
Well, I kind of bottled it a wee bit when I did my prediction on this. So I went for a score draw because I was really just going on, their finishing place in the league last season. There wasn't actually that much between the two sides last season. I think their record was almost identical, with the exception of maybe one result. So I thought a score draw would probably have been about right. But these games, it's all about who takes their chances, and when it's as tight as that, anything could happen really. So I would think Dunbar will be pretty chuffed with it, and I've got a mate who's from Dunbar, and he keeps an eye on their results, so he'll be kind of happy as well, I would think.
Moving on to the title favourites, one of the title favourites, Linlithgow Rose hosting Crossgates Primrose at Preston Field. Another sort of shock, I would suggest, in terms of results. Linlithgow Rose did take the lead in the 17th minute through an own goal. Wasn't very long before Crossgates Primrose equalised in the 23rd minute through Scott Lowry. And Crossgates Primrose had a chance to win it, actually, towards the end. It was a penalty miss, unfortunately, for the draw, but we have to congratulate, obviously, Jason Deans for getting man of the match for Crossgates. But it would have been brilliant if Primrose got the win there, certainly. But decent draw for them as well, especially against one of the top sides in the East of Scotland.
It is. I need to tread carefully here because I've been getting pelters on Twitter from a couple of the Crossgates fans who were taking issue with some of the things I'd said in my preview about the side. But I mean, when you've got a player like Scott Lowry in your team, he's been around a wee while, but he still knows how to stick the ball in the net. So he's one of these players that's always liable to pop up with a goal and get you a result from time to time. So I think that is, again, if I remember rightly, I went with Rose to win that game. So if we go on that basis, then maybe it was a wee bit of a shock. But I think Primrose have got a decent side.
Yep.
And at the start of the season, one or two of the kind of results is maybe all it needs for you to get the ball rolling and go on and have a really good season. And I hope that is the case with Primrose.
Yeah, and obviously they brought back Lewis McKenzie up front. They have Gary Layton sort of came back into the team, after leaving Kelty, and Cammy Lumsden as well there as well. So that, yeah, I think you're right. I think they have a decent sort of.
I think Kieran Chalmers is there as well now.
Yep. Yeah. So really, a team that's sort of built from higher up at lower league standard or even above that. So yeah, it's interesting to see the likes of Crossgates, Primrose, sort of get, I wouldn't say better standard of players, but certainly those with maybe a wee bit experience from higher up the levels.
And we said that a few times last year that they were maybe punching above their weight a wee bit. But at the end of the day, they had a decent finish in the league, so there's no reason why they shouldn't be going into this season with a bit of confidence.
Yeah. Disappointing, obviously, for Linlithgow Rose, because we could probably say the same about them. Obviously, like Paul Willis coming down, and they've signed a few guys, obviously, from East Kilbride last season, Scott Stevenson, Dean Cairns, and whatnot. I'd probably still fancy them to be near the top come the end.
Well, I mean, I think just purely on reputation alone, Rose are probably one of these sides that you would regard as one of the biggest sides in that division. So you would hope that they would be there, or you would expect them to be there or thereabouts. I mean, last season was a pretty dismal one for them, to be honest. I know what you would expect for them, certainly know what the Lithgow fans would expect for them. So I think I would certainly expect them to be a bit higher up this time around.
And they are missing Roddy McLennan as well. I believe he's sort of taken a wee bit time off at the moment due to obviously work commitments as a teacher and stuff like that. So he, someone like Roddy would, an influential player. They still have his brother, obviously Rory, but I think if he comes back in a few weeks or whatever it will be, obviously another big boost to Rose.
The other thing I think is crucial for them is getting the fans back in. We've kind of been spoken about at length, but it's a cracking stadium to go to, Preston Field, and when that place is full, then they do generate a bit of an atmosphere. So maybe teams like Crossgates, for example, can take advantage of the fact that they didn't have that kind of boost behind them at the moment, and maybe see if they can rob some points that they might not necessarily be expecting to get.
They were streaming the game also, which is great to see. And another team that was streaming the game, Newton Grange Star, were hosting Camelin Juniors. 1-1 a result. Again I probably would have predicted that. Well, actually, I think Newton Grange Star have actually had a very decent pre-season. They brought in Craig O'Reilly back to the club, so we all know he's a goal scorer. But I probably would have favoured Camelin, even with, in that regard. And Camelin did have the lead in the 71st minute. It was Mark Stowe that gave them the lead, but an injury time equaliser by Kyle Mitchell gave Newton the point there. Obviously a bit dramatic for opening day, but another decent result for Newton Grange Star.
Again, it's another one I need to watch what I'm saying, because I kind of slipped up the last time I was on and when I was talking about Newton Grange. But I certainly would have expected Camelin to come out on top on that one. I think they were a decent side last year. I think they've recruited well over the summer. We both know Keir McCauley. I think he's a good addition to the side. So I would have expected Camelin to get off to a decent start. I think they'll be there or thereabouts this season. But credit to Newton Grange, you know what I mean? The finishing bottom last season, they've obviously made a few changes, and like I say, if you get the points on the board early doors, it can make a huge difference to your season, and it can certainly give that momentum kickstart to go on and do a lot better than they did last year.
Yeah, and what I always comment when I talk about Newton Grange Star, but what a ground! I do believe I think it was the Czech Republic under 21s before they played Scotland were training at Newton Grange. So testament to the ground there. I think it's one of my favourite East of Scotland grounds, Newton Grange Star actually.
It is. I mean, it's a long time since I've been there. I used to go. I've got family across that neck of the woods, so I used to go across there when I was a kid. But I've not been for a while. But it was always a nice stadium back then, and I know they've done a bit of work, so I'm quite sure. Hopefully, get a chance to get across there sometime soon.
And what I sort of touted as my, I guess if there was a match of the week or game of the week for East of Scotland, this would have been my game of the week. Pennycook Athletic versus Broxburn, two teams that have been up there over the last sort of few seasons. I expected, I tell you what, it's a weekend full of shocks, really. But obviously, it is the opening weekend, so we're not too sure how new teams will gel and whatnot. But yeah, Pennycook beat Broxburn Athletic 4-1. I'm going to butcher. I'm just going to call him Lumbert. We had a discussion about this. I'm not going to try and pronounce this guy's name, but yeah, he gave them the opening for Cookie's first competitive goal of the season. Connor Kelly drew Broxburn Athletic from the spot. Callum Donnelly fires home a half volley to restore Cookie's lead, and Craig Stevenson converted a Cookie penalty for the third, and it was Callum Connolly again who doubled his tally to complete the scoring at 4-1. Brilliant win for Pennycook Athletic. I think between if I had put a prediction for this, certainly Cookie at home would have been a thing for me, but I think it would have probably been a bit closer in my mind. But either team, I think, in terms of their strength, could have won that. But I'm very surprised at the 4-1 result.
Me too, I've got to say. I think it's Lumberg Catalisa. I apologise if I've got that wrong. And I'm actually just looking at his goal just now on Twitter. So it's a decent finish actually for the first goal of the season. I would certainly have expected Broxburn to come out on top in this game. I mean, Pennycook are a decent side, especially at home. But again, like a few other sides we've talked about, they do have the tendency to blow hot and cold a wee bit. Whereas Broxburn, if you looked on their form last year, that they were a really, really strong side. So I certainly expected them to come out on top in this. So it's a great result for Pennycook. 4-1 at home, first day of the season. Like I say, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but that's the kind of result that can get your season going. So let's hope they can keep that momentum up.
Yeah, and for Broxburn, I think it was a similar case with Lithgow. When I'm looking at the sort of sides, the players that they've brought in and whatnot, there is a case there that it will take time to gel, obviously, and I think different teams are probably at different stages in terms of their fitness and pre-season, but I would expect Broxburn, similar to Linlithgow Rose, to bounce back and obviously be towards the top when hopefully the season gets to a conclusion.
I mean, the thing I would say was, this season is going to be more unpredictable than any season that we've ever known, probably.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. I think you definitely didn't want to get off to a bad start. So I would certainly expect that they'll be looking to bounce back pretty damn quickly. And again, it's a cracking ground. I really like going to Albion Park. I think it's a really smart wee stadium, and when that shed end is full, fans they can create a bit of atmosphere and get behind their side. So, but I definitely wouldn't want it to be the side that's dropping points early on in this season. I would really, if I was a Broxburn fan, I would be really keen to make sure you get back on track quickly.
I think you're right as well, Kev. I think it is probably going to be and it's probably similar to other leagues as well. Even the Lowland League, there was quite a lot of, I think there was less shocks, but certainly closer results, I would suggest, for some of the teams. So I think we could have a case of a pretty much open season in any of these leagues.
Well, I mean, when you throw in the curveballs that could be coming our way, to me, I would like to get the points on the board early and just make sure that, because once they're on the board, they're staying on the board, really. So I wouldn't like to try and guess what's going to happen this year at all.
Moving on to Callum Elliott's first game as manager of Trinent Juniors. They played Hill of Beef. The game was sort of overshadowed a wee bit by Ricky Patrick's injury. I believe it was a serious one. We obviously wish him all the best. I don't know
Absolutely, aye.
I don't know the details, but obviously I did see John Mitchell's status and whatnot. I think it was from a bad tackle from what I've heard, but I haven't seen it of that. So all we can do is wish him the best.
Absolutely, I mean, I like Ricky. I think he's one of the players in the midfield. He's got a bit of energy. He's got a bit of steel. He's the type of player I think that every fan would like to have on their side. So I absolutely echo that, Chris. I hope he gets back, get back to his best soon.
Trinent Juniors got the win 2-1 over Hillabeef. The Hawes did take the lead on the 51st minute. It was a penalty, Lyle Kellihan. And unfortunately, I didn't get the goal scorers, but Trinent did score in the 85th and the 86th minute. Again, I don't know if it was, if this was before or after what happened to Ricky. It could have been a factor that the Hawes maybe were a bit concerned about their teammate. I don't know the nature, obviously, of what happened there. But, fair enough to Trinent, obviously getting back into 2 late goals and a decent win over, another team that you'd probably expect to be near the top in the Hawes.
Aye, I mean, it's a bit of a sickener for any team losing 2 goals that late on in the game. But there wasn't much between these two last year. I think it was 3rd and 4th. The two of them finished, and I was at a couple of their games actually, and they were pretty close encounters. So I suppose it's one of these things. You beat the teams around about you, and that's a really important factor in your season. So credit to Trinent for that. I still think Hillabeef are probably just about the side to beat in that league this year. But again, you've got to go and win the games just because you're maybe one of the favourites. You have to. It doesn't automatically follow that you're going to get those points. You've got to go on and win the games and earn the points.
Yep, and in terms of Hillabeef, I've actually obviously been doing the squads like I normally do, and I've been sort of checking in with Hillabeef as one of our sort of local sides, if you will, Kev. They seem to have a really decent depth, certainly for the standard, and again, it's a case of obviously the points and wins and whatever is what matters, but strictly based on the team, you would expect them to obviously bounce back, but it's very important to bounce back, and I think it's harder. One thing I guess we have to mention is obviously the fact that the boys are going to be playing, Saturday to Tuesday most weeks. So it's definitely going to be tough on the teams that are maybe a wee bit short in terms of depth.
As I definitely. I mean, the schedule you've got now with the late start is going to be difficult. So I mean, I spoke with John Mitchell a few weeks ago. Now I was down there doing a wee bit of work for them. And I spoke to John and a couple of committee members, and they were all really pleased that they'd managed to keep, most of the squad that they had there last year, keep them together, and they've obviously added 1 or 2 to strengthen it. So I think they've got a good blend, youth and experience. John worked with the youth team before he took over the first team, so there's a couple of young guys that have made that step up into the side. So I think all the signs for me are quite positive for Hillabeef.
And moving on to Tynecastle, Stephen McLeish was announced as a manager after Callum Elliott took over Trinent. They got off to a brilliant start, perfect start if you will, 6-0 over Inverkeven Hillfield Swifts. A bit of a sore one for Hillfield Swifts, obviously just coming up to the Premier Division, but a real proper result that for Tynecastle, obviously coming up also. One thing I would say though, I didn't catch who scored the goals, unfortunately, but I did see one of the players obviously trying to claim all 6 of them, and I don't know how true that is, obviously. But in fairness, if he did score all 6, then fair play, some result for that. He'll be in for top scorer, surely.
Well, if there's nothing published anywhere else, then they're up for grabs, I would suppose. I mean, I think last time I was on the pod, I'd tipped Hillfield Swifts to maybe cause a few shocks this season, so I don't know if I'm letting that influence my predictions. I kind of thought they might have enough just to about nick this, because I think I'm right in saying Tynecastle just came up from Conference B this season as well.
Yep.
Although from memory, I think they did run away with that league, that conference last season. So maybe it's not too much of a surprise, really. But I thought it might have been, certainly thought it might have been a bit closer than 6-0.
Yeah, certainly. And they have, in fairness, they've lost a lot of players as well. Obviously, Jordan Hopkinson went to Broxburn. Obviously, Jordan Smith went to Bonnyrigg as well. So they have lost a few players to Tynecastle, and it's a really decent start. I think when they play Trinent, when they come up against their former manager, Callum Elliott, I think that'll be one to sort of watch out for and look out for.
That always adds a wee bit of spice to proceedings.
Yep. And our final fixture of the Premier Division at Rosewell, Whitehill Welfare played Dundonald Bluebell. Unfortunately, it was a red card for Whitehill. They kind of suggested that this might have changed the game. Twaddle was sent off for a second bookable offence, and on the 66th minute, Dundonald obviously took the lead. And I don't know if you spotted who scored the goal, but I'll give you a guess of who it was, Kev.
Was it Stuart Cargill?
It was Stuart Cargill, yeah. Of course it was Stuart Cargill. No, I'm obviously delighted for Cargs. A decent win, I think. I've been obviously keeping an eye out on Whitehill as well. New management, obviously, and decent squad by the looks of things. Some result again for Dundonald, especially away from home.
It is, aye. I think I said before, Bluebell were kind of pretty high scorers in that league last year. You've got somebody like Cargill in your squad, then you're always likely to get a few goals. So I'm not so sure about Whitehill. I know they've changed a lot of their backroom staff. They've changed a lot of their playing staff. So kind of difficult for me to comment on them. But any win away from home's a good win, I would suppose.
And what we'll do now, obviously, so we're not here all day, we'll just sort of fire through the First Division Conference A games. We'll start with Craig Royston. They beat Tweedmouth Rangers 6-0. Great result for Craig Royston there. Dalkeith Thistle were beat at home by Edinburgh United 2-1. Haddington Athletic beat Dunnypace 2-0. Decent result there. Kenneway Star Hearts won 3-0 over Arniston Rangers. That was their first game in the East of Scotland. Great result for the Fife team there. Leaf Athletic beat Coldstream 6-2. Rosyth won the Fife Derby in Conference A. They beat Kirkcaldy and Dysart 4-2. St Andrews United beat Ormiston 2-0. And Thornton Hibs beat another new team to the East of Scotland 3-0 in Edinburgh South. We'll go to Conference B. Easthouse's Lily. This was a bit of a shocker for Eyemouth, who's just back, but obviously it is good to see Eyemouth back, but I'm sure they would have wished a better result. The Easthouses beat them 8-0. Hoyk Royal Albert United beat Glenrothes 2-1. That was probably a wee bit of a shock for me, because I've been keeping up with Glenrothes. Obviously, I spoke to their manager and whatnot, sort of during lockdown. I was expecting maybe a wee bit better from Glenrothes, but that's some result for Hoyk.
It is. I'm like you. I saw a wee bit of Glenrothes last year, not too much, but what I did see, I thought they looked pretty decent. So not the best start to the season, I wouldn't have thought.
Heriot University are probably among my favourites in the conferences. They beat Burnt Island Shipyard 2-0. Newborough Juniors won 3-0 over Lochor Welfare. Oakley United beat Lochgelly Albert 3-0 in another Fife derby. Peebles Rovers at home got beat 9-2 by Luncarty, which is some result. Preston Athletic at home got beat by Canoe 5-0. A few. No, I wouldn't say shocking results, but some decent results for a few teams.
There's some big score lines here when you look at it. A 9-2, an 8-0, a couple of 6-0s, 6-2. So good. Maybe that's the place to go for goals as Conference A and B maybe this season. Good to see. First, I suppose some of the new Fife teams are not necessarily new, but new into our league. Fife teams: Kenneway, Star Hearts, Rosyth, Thornton Hibs. Good to see them getting themselves off to a start. And the other one for me, Canoe beating Preston 5-0. I spoke with our mate at Genefield a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying that they'd got a bit of shock against Canoe a couple of weeks before that. So maybe they're a side, maybe they're dark horses. I don't know. I'll need to keep an eye on them. I've only been up there once, so I need to keep an eye on their results this season.
Yeah, definitely, Kev. That did sort of. I know a few of the boys at Preston Athletic as well, so that was a sort of eye-opening one. I think there was a few, as we've mentioned throughout the podcast, but there is this sort of early season fair where maybe teams are still sort of working it out. Guys need time to gel, but the results are what's important, and there's certainly been a few surprise ones this weekend.
And there'll definitely be a fair wee bit of that. I mean, the guys have been off for so long, 7 months, a long time to be out, and it doesn't matter how good your pre-season programme is, you're still going to be a wee bit rusty. So I'm sure it will take a couple of weeks for some of the guys to blow away the cobwebs and get fully back into their stride, and for the kind of managers and the coaching staff to be able to get their ideas across, especially if they've picked up a lot of new players. So it might take a wee while to settle down and shake things out. So certainly worth a watching.
Yeah, brilliant. And we'll move on to just to preview the sort of midweek games in the Premier Division. We've actually got a few sort of decent sort of ties in there, I would think. So these are Tuesday, 13th of October. We'll start with Blackburn United versus Lothian Thistle Hutchie Vale. I think another difficult one for Blackburn. I was really impressed with Hutchie Vale the other night at Musselburgh, and another away game. So Blackburn, I don't know. I would suggest maybe Hutchie Vale are probably going in as favourites for that to continue the momentum.
Probably, aye. I mean, the two away games for them to start the season's kind of always a big ask, but I would think Blackburn will be a bit low after a heavy defeat yesterday. So maybe Lothian Thistles, it's a good time to go there and bag themselves a few goals, maybe, aye.
And two teams that didn't win on the opening day, which is a bit surprising, but Broxburn Athletic versus Camelon Juniors. I think it'll be tight. I think it'll be a wee bit nervy as well, considering they didn't pick up any wins on the opening day. But Broxburn at home, I would probably take them over Camelon.
Yeah, I would expect them probably just to shade that one, aye.
Moving on to Hillabeef Hawthorn versus Dunbar United. Hopefully, I'm not showing a wee bit of favouritism to the Fife team, but I would probably go with Hawes for the win there.
Aye, I think so too. I think for both Broxburn and Hillabeef, who most people would regard as being the two favourites, having a home game immediately after an opening day defeat's probably the best you could ask for. And I would think Hillabeef should be good enough to win that one.
Jeanfield Swifts hosting Crossgates Primrose. Obviously, Crossgates Primrose got an excellent result away from home against Linlithgow Rose. But given the scoreline and how many goals Jeanfield Swifts and how, I guess, well drilled we saw them in training, I've got to give them the advantage, really, Jeanfield Swifts.
I think so too. At home as well, it probably gives them that wee bit of an edge. But certainly, Crossgates have already proved that they're no pushovers, so that'll not be an easy game, I don't think.
And Linlithgow Rose hosting Tynecastle, two teams in maroon. I would imagine Linlithgow Rose would want to get back to winning ways, especially at Preston Field again.
I would think so, but same again, Tynecastle, a really good result yesterday, so I certainly wouldn't write them off.
No, definitely not. Newton Grange Star hosting Trinent Juniors. It's weird, Kev. All these sort of shock results. I'm assuming it'll probably be the same midweek, no matter what we say. But
guaranteed.
But I quite. You know what? I'm going to put my neck out in the line and say that Newton Grange Star are going to win that one. Sorry, Trinent.
I think that's quite a local derby, that one as well. Eh?
Yeah.
Just to be different, then I'll say Trinent.
I'll probably
need to be a 0-0 draw.
That's exactly what I was going to say, mate. Pennycook Athletic hosting Musselburgh Athletic. That's an interesting one because, as I said, I don't think Musselburgh played that bad against Lothian Thistle. I just think it's a matter of obviously putting the ball in the net, and Pennycook Athletics certainly proved that they can. Because it's at home, I have to give the Cookie the advantage.
I would think so too. Again, probably no be much in that one either, I wouldn't think.
Socky Juniors versus Dundonald Bluebell. I still think Socky Juniors are a fairly solid team. But I am going to show bias and say that Dundonald are going to get an away win just because they're a 5 team.
Aye. Again, I'm not too sure about this one, to be honest. I think Socky could be all right at home this season. I'll sit on the fence. I'll go with a draw.
And finally, two each. Good. And finally, Whitehill Welfare versus Inverkeven Hillfield Swifts. I'd go for Whitehill Welfare to bounce back. It was a heavy defeat for Inverkeven Hillfield Swifts at the weekend, and I don't think that, from what I heard, Whitehill Welfare were actually pretty decent in their game, but obviously the red card affected the results. So I've got to say Whitehill Welfare for the win against Hillfield Swifts.
I mean, with the greatest of respect, on paper at least, you would expect these two to be sides that are kind of in the lower half of the table. So these are the games that are really, really important to them. I think it's crucial if you are going to be in that kind of relegation fight. Maybe relegation fight's a bit strong, but if you're going to be doing that lower half of the table, then you need to be beating the sides round about you. So it's an important game, and I think maybe that's what's going to shade it for Welfare.
Brilliant, Kev. It's obviously been excellent having you on. Good to get a wee bit of coverage for the East of Scotland, certainly. I think I said it in the beginning, but we don't know how regular these will be. But we'll try our best, obviously. I think it's harder even for even the likes of the Lowland League, because there is midweek games and stuff. Realistically, we can't do two or 3 or 4 podcasts a week. I don't think anyone's got the time for that, obviously, but we will do our best to give East of Scotland coverage.
As I've already said to you, I was hoping, under normal circumstances, to try and get round a few more of the East of Scotland grounds this season, cover a wee bit more distance. Whether I'm going to be able to do that or not, obviously it depends on whatever restrictions are placed on attendances.
We'll obviously allow you to plug your blog. Hopefully you'll be a wee bit better this week in terms of the predictions if you're doing any.
I didn't read anything ever, right? It's kmphoto.co.uk, kmphoto on Twitter, Facebook. I'm on Instagram as well now. Moved into the 21st century, so pretty much anywhere where there's photographs and folk talking about football, then that's where you'll find me, KM Photo.
And you can find me at Rampant FM on Twitter, and you can find the Catchup at Official Catchup on Twitter, Facebook's Lowland League Catchup, and Instagram is official.catchup. And you can pretty much find us wherever podcasts are, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, and obviously we're on YouTube as well. So it's been great. I really enjoyed the chat, especially East of Scotland chat. I'm hoping to maybe catch a few live streams here and there, depending on what my situation is going to be like, Kev. Obviously, I'm probably going to be working within the Lowland League for at least half the time. So if I can catch maybe a few streams for the East of Scotland, I'll certainly hopefully get to see a few teams and a few matches this season.
And once we are allowed back, whenever that might be, there's always a spare seat in the car wherever I'm going. You're always welcome to join me.
I appreciate that, Kev. I really do. Depends on who it is, though. I'm only kidding, obviously. I think we spoke about it. Obviously, I'm really keen to get more coverage for the East of Scotland and see more teams. Obviously, this yourself. We do know a few of the players and some of the guys down at that level, but I think it's difficult. It's obviously difficult. Plans went awry for clubs, for players, for fans, for myself, for everyone really during this the sort of current climate, if you will.
Aye, and I mean, even just when we thought there was maybe a wee glimmer of hope, then obviously the changes and the government guidance or the government restrictions kind of slammed that door shut in our face again. I've got to say I'm really lucky, and if anybody is listening from Kelty, I've got to say a big thanks to them. They're allowing me to go as part of their media team, so I've still been able to go to their games, which, you know, and I understand that there'll be a lot of people probably throwing things at their speaker just now because they're not able to go. So I realise how lucky I am to still be able to get to go to the games when everybody else is stuck in the house.
Yeah, and I think it's great from the clubs, obviously, I think they, at the moment, obviously don't want to go too much into this, but certainly in terms of the media point of view, I think it's important to have sort of media people to maybe live stream games, to commentate on games, to even just update the fans on what's happening, because I think it is a big miss at the moment for fans, and it's great that even the East of Scotland teams are obviously doing what they can in terms of live streaming and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and obviously photographs are really, really important as well.
Yeah. I need to actually catch you on Instagram. Is it just at KM Photo on Instagram as well?
It is, mate. Just the same as everywhere else.
Brilliant. I'll look forward to some of your photos, and I look forward to hopefully chatting to you soon, mate. Well, as I said, we'll see how it develops over the course of the next few weeks. If there's going to be some more news, some fixtures, and probably shock results as well, I would say.
Well, fingers crossed we can get to a game soon.
Yeah. All the best, mate, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon.